With embarrassment so consuming it was palpable in the air, Cove got down on his trembling knees. His arms stretched out to be positioned around your sides, not quite touching, but close. Cove's hand shook as he gripped at the blanket you were sitting on. As shy as Cove's expression still was, it was also expectant, your entire body flushed with heat. Slowly, cautiously, you crawled up the mattress in order to lay down next to Cove. He welcomed you easily, turning on his side and reaching out to hold you in his arms. He pressed his mouth against yours longingly. God, Joseph, I love you. I love you too. Then it was silent for a time. There were only the sounds of ragged breathing between the two of you. When Cove finally calmed enough to really speak, he went right into doting on you. That was so good. Better than I even thought it could be. But I hope you're alright. If it was awkward or weird or anything, you can let me know. I promise I won't be mad. It was pretty awkward, yeah. Where's that choice? Cove shifted his position again to get a better look at your face, searching for a reaction. You teased him for his panic. It was truly amazing. We actually got through this with how nervous you always are about stuff. Seriously? That's what you're gonna say? Yes, sorry, but at least you know I'm fine. Joseph. Thank you for this. Oh, am I supposed to thank you for something like this? Is it embarrassing? Was there something else I was meant to say? Or do? By the wide, humiliated expression on his face, you imagined Cove was aware he was babbling, and yet he couldn't stop himself from doing so. Don't worry. No, thank you. You don't have to thank me for getting you off. Cove laughed self-consciously, but that put an end to the ramble. Cove then sat up next to your side. You shifted over to give him room while also repositioning your own posture to be more casual. Once the two of you were settled, Cove leaned and kissed you on the top of his head. His lips left you, but he didn't depart in full. Cove pressed his forehead against yours to remain close. I love you. Cove's words were as gentle as a feather. I love you too. You nuzzled closer and the two of you began to breathe at the same pace. You felt wonderfully self-assured with Cove. Let's see, let's talk it over. You tenderly caressed the nape of your lover's neck. Cove trembled, and not only from these soft touches, he still hadn't fully settled from the intensity moments before. Cove, was that okay for you? With the things I tried, were there any parts you liked most? The quiet moment was entirely shattered by Cove abruptly, instinctively sputtering. I am supposed to tell you that? Yes, Cove. Telling each other things is usually how relationships work. As you imagined, Cove began to calm back down when the initial shock wore off. He stuttered out an answer as best he could. Well, I like it when you touch me and stuff. That's not specific. Anything more specific than that? It'd be really good to know. I want to make you happy. Cove squeaked hearing that, a nervous grin trembling on his face. His tone was cracked, but he was encouraged enough to keep going. He then chewed the bottom of his lip, genuinely struggling to speak aloud the words. When you would be holding on to me and you gripped extra tightly, that felt exciting. Cove had to turn his face away, but he kept rambling on about his sexual preferences. It's always nice when you kiss me. That just makes me happy. And mostly, I like it when you say my name. He had to cover his eyes with a hand after such an admission. He was incredibly bashful, but it was always adorable to you. Oh my god. He peeled the fingers off from his face in order to shake his head at himself. They don't have any of the even like little voice snippets, because the normal game has voice snippets, you know? Like I remember he always had that. Oh my god. Voice snippet. Did they not want to, like, use? Like, was the voice actor or something not comfortable with his voice lines being used in a sex scene? Or something? I wonder. I wonder. Because I don't know why else they wouldn't use it. I mean, they have it. He peeled the fingers off from his face in order to shake his head at himself. But yeah, that's something. That's gonna be useful. I appreciate it. Oh, very interesting. So what about you? Did you have a part that you liked best? Ko's voice got smaller the longer that sentence went on. You could hardly hear the final words, but you were certain he did ask it. I liked it most when you were rougher. Oops. Cove's eyes were wide, his cheeks were red, and his head bobbed. As embarrassed as he was to talk about such a topic, he took the info seriously. For someone so nervous, you nailed it? I feel like I already kind of said that. Let's see. Tonight was truly amazing. Cove choked up again, his lips shook, and he sucked in a deep breath through his nose. Thank God. I really wanted our first time to be good. It's so great you liked it. He pulled at the edge of the blanket you both sat on and kicked his legs as they hung over the side edge. You watched him adoringly until Cove reached over to cradle you in his arms. He was still bursting with nervous energy, but being near you took priority. Both of you held on to each other, and the moment of intimacy for a little longer. A few more chaste kisses were shared between you as you cuddled along with sweet praising words. But eventually the time came when you needed to clean up and get dressed before Mr. Holden showed up. Yeah, where's his dad? Where's Daddy? Cove, where's your daddy? I want a little round two. Cove made it clear he might honestly, with no exaggeration, drop dead of humiliation if his father saw you naked in bed together. You weren't keen on that happening, so you were willing to let Cove go for now. The both of you washed up, then shyly slipped back into your formerly abandoned clothes, and with that you were presentable. Well, I mean, my cheeks are still cheeking in this thong. Besides Cove's expressive jumpiness, and some not entirely hidden kiss marks, you wouldn't be able to tell at all what he had just gotten done doing. That wasn't enough to ease his tension, however. Cove was feeling suffocated, or maybe overexcited, staying alone together in his room after all of that, so you made your way out into the less claustrophobic living room. Silently, you sat side by side on the couch. The night stretched on later and later as you and Cove relished each other's company for as long as possible. The only notion you have time passing was when Mr. Holden finally made it home. He greeted you both warmly before heading down the hall to his own room. Once you were alone again, Cove turned to speak to you. Cove's mouth was open, ready to speak, but his eyes had drifted up to the clock on the wall. As he frowned, it dawned on you that it was probably time to end your date. Aww. Joseph? There was a tremor in his voice. You froze, wondering just how late it had to be to make Cove so nervous. I was kind of wondering if it wouldn't get you in trouble with your parents. Would you want to stay? Not just for another hour or something, but to spend the night here? Really? As much as you liked the idea, you didn't want to impose. Cove realized your concerns. Yeah, don't worry about it. His smile was lopsided and awkward as his gaze flicked to the hall where Mr. Holden had disappeared moments before. Dad would probably be up for it, as long as we promised to behave. He bit his lip sheepishly, his eyes darting to you. It's not like we could even be mad when our families inevitably make fun of what we got up to tonight, considering what we already did. You snorted, amused by the irony and the assumption, while your heart felt like it was floating from the joy of your shared secret. We should be able to have a sleepover if we want to. Buoyed by his statement, you nodded. Alright, I'll call my mom. Cove brightened further as you took out your phone. Yes! The word uttered with such gusto seemed to echo in the still of the night. Cove realized it too. He cleared his throat shyly, rubbing his knuckles self-consciously along his Adam's apple. You chuckled at the ferocity of his enthusiasm as you listened to the placid ringing of your phone, waiting for it to be picked up. You weren't kept waiting long. Hey kiddo! Which one is this? I can't remember. How did they distinguish between them? Was one mom and one mommy? I don't really remember. Hey kiddo, how are things going? It's all good. I'm over at Cove's house. You barreled... This is the white one talking. This is the white mommy. You barreled into your next sentence, ready to endure the teasing that was going to come. And I don't want to go home. I want to sleep over here. Mom laughed loudly, just as you knew she would. Wrap it up, Mom. Cove was watching intently, trying to get a feel for how the conversation was going. At your reaction, he rolled his eyes. He figured out exactly what was happening on the other end of the line. Alright, you're adults. And Lanny... I don't remember which one is Lanny, but I think... Okay, no, I think Lanny is the dark one. I think. So I am doing the right voice. Lanny would be proud that you asked. Just make sure Cliff is comfortable with it and don't cause trouble. Thank you. At your cheery response, Cove's eyebrows rose with cautious optimism. He tilted his head, still monitoring you for a final outcome. Have a good night, both of you. I'll see you tomorrow. Good night, Mom. Heart racing, you hung up and grinned at Cove. As casual as Mom had been, this was a big deal. The first time you consciously decided to sleep over at Cove's, and with everyone's approval. Why hadn't we slept over here earlier, especially when, like, we weren't specifically dating? You know? You'd think we would've, but... Nope. Well, it was assumed that your ma and his dad would approve at least. Oh, that's right, we called one mom and one ma. I think that's how we did it. Nolani, or whatever her name is, was ma. It's okay? Yeah, Mom's fine with it if your dad is. That's great. Cove pulls you into an embrace, his arms crossing at the nape of your neck. His head rested upon yours, his cheek pressed against your scalp. You thought that must tickle. His enthusiasm was infectious. You clapped your hands together and joined in his cheering. You should go get some pajamas and your toothbrush and stuff. I'll go talk to my dad, but he definitely won't say no. Not when you've got permission. He's always kind of looked to your moms as a parent role models. He chuckled sweetly, reminiscing about how Mr. Holden fumbled as best as he could at raising Cove, and you did the same. I noticed, but yeah, I'll be back soon. You split up, Cove disappearing down the hall to his father as you headed out to grab everything you'd need for tonight. Back home, after stopping to the bathroom to collect things, you bumped into Liz. She was very interested to know that, or why you were taking your toothbrush for a walk. After admitting what you were up to, a wicked smirk spread across her face as she gave you some lip about your sleepover. Still, she let you go after only a minute of needling? Needling? I've never heard that before. So you got off lightly. You were grateful for this small mercy. By the time you got back to Cove's, you found him waiting near the entryway. He grinned, giving you an okay sign with his hand, and your heart somersaulted again at the confirmation that his dad had agreed for you to stay over. You'd surmounted the final hurdle. Cove hopped off the bar stool he had been stationed at while waiting for your arrival. Need any help with that? Sure, thanks. Cove helped you organize your belongings into easy-to-access spots in the Holden residence. Taking the change of clothes you'd packed for tomorrow, the two of you headed down the hall towards the bathroom in Cove's room. You stepped into the bathroom to get ready for bed, while Cove got changed into his pajamas in his room. We don't need to do that anymore. When you'd finished, you went to join Cove in his room. It was already late into the night, a fact that you couldn't help but notice as a yawn escaped from your mouth. Cove took in the sight of you dressed for bed. It wasn't a new look. He'd seen it many times before, especially when he dropped in through your window for a surprise visit. And yet he swallowed heavily, blinking rapidly as he smiled at you. The juxtaposition of you ready to sleep, but in his room rather than your own, had clearly made him emotional in a good way. Your read of the situation was confirmed when the words he spoke echoed them exactly. It's really nice that you're going to be staying here with me, in my room. You laughed, delighted at just how well you knew him. You're taking this a lot better than the last time we spent the night together. Well, we didn't spend the night together, that's what it said. I don't remember. Maybe we did. I had a feeling you might say that. He continued to watch you as he brushed his knuckles against his cheek. Then he strolled over to the bed, taking a seat on the edge. His gaze became trained on the ground, but his expression was content. So we're gonna share the bed? I don't want you sleeping on the floor. You're the guest. You've made progress. Amazing. His smile formed slowly, as if he were taking care to instruct each facial muscle individually, not wanting the slightest error to break the magic of tonight's spell. You went to sit beside him. It was an action you'd taken so many times over the years, but tonight, dressed in your pajamas and intending to sleep in that very bed, it felt completely new. He opened his mouth to speak, then pressed a hand to his forehead. Oh, the light. He hopped up to flip the light off so that you could actually sleep, then turned right around to take a seat once more. This time, though, he scooted all the way over the mattress, taking the side closest to the wall. He shimmied under the cover. You followed his lead. As your skin met Cove's sheets, the memories of what you'd done the last time you were in this bed came flooding back. Your heart pounded in your chest as your fingers curled into the fabric, pulling the covers up over you. And spending a lot of time in your bed today, you joked. Nah, too bad we can't reenact what we did here last time. Ko's dad was understanding, but you were very aware of the risk of being overheard. A staccato burst of laughter, short and sharp, and surrounded by silence, came from Cove. Yeah. You and Cove settled into position on the mattress, each laying your heads on a pillow. You turned to lay on your side, facing towards Cove, and were pleased to see that he'd done the same. His face so close to yours was soft with open adoration. He whispered to you. Good night, Joseph. You swallowed. You'd exchanged thousands of goodnight wishes, but almost all of them had been a wish for the future uttered before you went to your respective homes. It felt different now, knowing this conversation would be the last thing either of you heard before the next morning came. You hoped your voice wasn't choked as you whispered back to him. Good night, Cove. Let's see. You nuzzled your nose against his. Cove leaned in and rubbed back, the tips of your noses flicking against each other. You and your fiancé snuggled deeper into the depths of the sheet. Your toes curled as they brushed against unfamiliar fabric and pressed into a mattress with a firmness different to your own, each unusual touch acting as a further reminder of where you were. Comfortable and content, Cove let out a happy little sigh. Now we can talk. Cove's eyes were closed. You didn't think he was asleep. Not yet, but he whispered just in case. Are you asleep? Laughing, Cove opened one eye to look at you. He whispered back. No. Do you want to talk? His other eye flicked open. Yeah, I'd like that. The two of you fell easily into a casual conversation. Other than your surroundings and the low volume that it was conducted in, it was much like any of your other talks. It was soothing. You didn't know when you had drifted off. It was after midnight when you'd gone to bed. Dawn had yet to break between those 2 points. You found yourself fast asleep in the Holden's home. The next thing you were conscious of was the feeling of a pleasant warmth. You snuggled deep. Yeah, no way, my ass. That's how my ass would be. The next thing I would have noticed was waking up in the middle of the night, needing to piss, and my throat would be dry as the Sahara Desert. I'd have like a mouthful of saliva. I'd have to go spit it out. This is how I sleep. This is how I wake up. And then that would happen like 3 more times during the night. Yeah. Anyway, you snuggle deeper into the blankets and closer to a comforting presence beside you. You were fuzzy, still not all awake yet. You enjoyed the bliss of sleepy contentment for a little longer. Light started to come through your closed lids, vague and dreamy. You slowly blinked your eyes open. You saw a beautiful head of pale green hair. Cove was tucked in against you, still dozing and looking far too cute for someone drooling on his pillow. There shouldn't have been a way you could squeeze even closer under the arm he had draped over your shoulder. You still made the attempt. You shifted to try to maximize your cuddling. A gentle noise drifted from Cove as he matched your own plans, wrapping his arm around you tighter. You chuckled and gripped his pajama shirt. It was so nice. He lifted his head, and his first sight of the day was your green eyes. He smiled sweetly, as best as he could, while also groggily yawning. Good morning. Morning, Cove. He only hummed again and softly rested his forehead on yours. His eyes drooped closed. He wasn't in any rush this morning. Let's see. I'll kiss his lips. Hope he doesn't have morning breath. I'm sure he does. You started a gentle kiss, his lips soft and yielding under yours. It did not take long for him to start kissing back, each action growing less sleepy and more sure. You inhaled the comforting citrusy sea scent Cove always had. After another moment, he yawned again, and then everything seemed to hit him at once. His eyes went wide, his cheeks went red. Suddenly he was unable to look at you. With your bodies still so close together, you could feel his heartbeat speed up. With a bit of embarrassed air, he tucked his head into your neck. He used you and the pillow to shield himself from. You weren't entirely sure what. His own shyness, maybe? You allowed him to get comfortable and settled yourself into the embrace. You weren't going anywhere. You let him get his nervous nerves under control. It was exciting to wake up together for you, but you understood Cove needed a moment to process everything. A strange sound came from Cove. You realized he was laughing, but the pillow underneath him muffled the sound. He turned his head so that you could see his face once more. Then Cove ran a hand through your hair. The brown strands lifted as his fingers brushed over them delicately. I'm glad I'm not working today. He gave you a very deliberate glance. I'd definitely be late. I'd definitely be late. You snorted. Let's see. Yeah, this is much more relaxed way to wake up this morning than the last time we did this. What does that mean? I don't remember. Cove's face flipped into a complicated expression as we remembered that particular scene. Let's see. Oh yeah, I think for once, that was the time like we went through his window or something. Let's see. It's been so long. Let's see, my family will not stop teasing me for catching you sneaking over. Oh wait, no, this is when he came sneaking over to my place? I don't know what they're talking about. He sighed dramatically with a shake of his head. What a mess that was. People don't want to let us live. You snickered and were thankful for this calm morning. Cove flopped onto his back, still warm at your side. He stretched his arms and pressed his hands against the top of the bunk. With his palms flat above him, he looked at you from the corner of his eyes. Is there anything you want to have for breakfast? You considered it. You hadn't thought of food yet this morning. Cove continued blithely, his gaze trailing up as he kept stretching. I want orange juice. That's not a meal. Oh, and my dad got these muffins yesterday that are amazing. They're these vegan oat cinnamon apple muffins. You can warm them up really well. I ate mine with peanut butter and fruit, too. I'll check out those muffins. Yeah, you'll love them. And let's see. I'll see what else you have, too. Cove nodded and made a little grunt of acknowledgement. His eyes reluctantly looked at the sides of the bunk. Despite his desire for breakfast, you could tell he hadn't committed to leaving the bed yet. He was still buried in the covers. You reached over and held him next to you. You drew him in and trapped him with your arms. You were even less ready to let this end. He wiggled in your grasp until he had rolled enough to face you with a grin. He leaned forward and gave you a little kiss with a smile. He snuggled against you, wrapping his own arms around you. He laid his head on your shoulder and you tangled your legs together. You were pleased he was staying with you. The two of you held each other, just breathing each other in. At last, Cove let out a satisfied sigh and let go. I can get up now. Let's eat. Even though you were a little colder as he sat up, moved past you, and then dangled his feet off the bed, you snorted amusedly. You might be the first priority, but food was still high up there on his list of things that mattered. You laughed and followed him out of the room, listening to the many reasons why orange juice was an absolute necessity this morning. You both made your way to the living room. It was strangely quiet. Where's your dad? Probably already left for work. Too bad for him. He faced you with a wide grin and snicker. With the two of you having full run of the house, Cove went over to the cupboards and started making a collection on the counter. He bustled around, opening this and that, pulling out anything that looked appealing. He warmed up a few muffins and washed some fruit and berries. After rinsing some strawberries, he held one out to you. I leaned over and grabbed it with my mouth. Cove hadn't expected your strawberry acquisition methods and suddenly found the floor extremely interesting. You bit into the strawberry, and juice began dripping down your chin. Despite its deep red color, you hadn't realized how ripe and juicy the small fruit really was. You tried to salvage this and eat it suavely, but weren't really sure how well you pulled it off. Luckily, Cove wasn't a tough audience and didn't seem to notice you desperately trying not to make a mess. You continued to watch Cove's preparation, all the while on the lookout for anything that looked delicious to you. Once you had a sense of the options and what you wanted, you joined in on the breakfast prep and helped get your own meal ready. Cove turned the kettle on as the two of you shuffled around together. It didn't take long for you to start putting plates and glasses on the kitchen island, ready to start digging in. You sat side by side on the bar stools. It didn't escape you that there was, in fact, a proper dining table that you could use, but Cove preferred eating there. You couldn't blame him, the island was far cozier. Cove took a long, drawn-out gulp of orange juice. He smiled, content, juice craving for the day satisfied. Then he dug into his muffin, taking a large bite that contained an apple chunk and a good helping of peanut butter. He happily shimmied his chair as he chewed. It must be especially tasty. You smiled affectionately at his enjoyment as you tried your own delicious food. Cove finally swallowed and chased it down with another sip of juice. This is great. Not the muffin. Well, the muffin is. The muffin is good, but I'm trying to say all of this is. He gestured to you with a wide circular motion. Everything, it's really nice. You understood the sentiment. When you had been on that date last night, usually it would have had to end. You would have needed to part, at least for a time, even if sometimes you snuck back together. Last night was the first time you had gotten to be together the entire time. You got to hold on to Cove and hadn't had to let go. Cove huffed to himself in a jokingly indignant way. Honestly, our parents should have let us have more sleepovers. We've been deprived and denied so much joy. What happened last night is probably why they stopped us from having sleepovers. You waggled your eyebrows for added effect. Joseph! Cove sputtered so dramatically you were glad he had set his juice down before you said that. You laughed freely. Then Cove cleared his throat. His voice raised in pitch, catching your attention. I just wanted to let you know that when I've moved into my apartment, you can spend the night whenever you want, as often as you want to. You're always welcome, is what I'm saying. No one will be able to tell us what to do then. Cove's largely jovial tone fell apart into shaky bashfulness. Your eyes widened as he continued. You could stay there all the time even. Are you asking me to move in? You want to live together? Well, we are fiancés. So maybe we should. Wake up every morning together like this, have me raiding your fridge. If you live together, it'd be your fridge too then. I mean, Cove stiffened, obviously stalled by overthinking everything. Maybe? He squeaked, his voice strained. He then sighed at himself for his own wishy-washiness. No, I really mean, yeah. I'm asking if you'd want to live together sometime, when it might work out. I always want to be with you. It's not a secret. He laughed at himself for his difficulties being forward before he rubbed at one of his eyes with the palm of his hand. He directed an adorable smile your way. I'm in love with you. And if you think you can deal with that all the time, then could we live together someday? I'll have to see how things go. No, never. I love you too. Of course I'd want to move in together. Oh, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. Cole's eyes twinkled with familiar glossiness and he smiled. You kissed him. You placed a hand on his cheek to guide him. Cove turned his head to face you better. You beamed at him and kissed him sweetly. You returned your affection, joyously, happy. Each kiss was a promise of another in the future. One of the tears that had built up since your first answer dripped down his cheek. His voice was soft and he leaned in closer. Thank you for being there yesterday, and for being here today, and because you're gonna be here tomorrow too. I'm grateful for the chance to be with you. His answering grin struck you with a lovely sense of fulfillment. The two of you were growing up, but for all the worries that it brought right now, it made your life and relationship richer. You couldn't wait to have new days and experience new things with Cove. Every potential moment you would have together looked more appealing than before. It was beautiful because you didn't have to ask Cove to know if he felt the same way. He proved it was mutual with everything he did. Neither of you needed anything more than that. Oh God. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You can see I got quite emotional at the end there. It was just a very emotional moment again. Now this game has made me cry twice. Truly a 10 out of 10 game. Oh God. But I hope you all enjoyed this episode of Our Life. Oh, my throat. I will see you guys in the next video. Clearly, I loved it. It was amazing, as it always is. I loved every part of it. It was fantastic. Fantastic, and I can't wait to play more of this game. So, when we come back, we'll do step 4, the wedding route or DLC or moments. And that's where we'll continue next time with this game. Bye, guys.